I'm not dead. That sounds like something interesting.
The honeybee's in big trouble, and there's something you and I can do to help. We're going to show you a story that includes some work at Oregon State University at the Bee Research Lab. We're also going to show you the Glory Bee Save the Bee campaign and give you some information on what you and I can do just in everyday life to help out the honeybee. The work they do, for the most part, goes unnoticed.
They all have their jobs. They're very efficient.
The complexity of their society secret to most of us.
We can learn a lot from social structure.
The intricate connection to the planet, our food, and our lives, not even on most people's radar until now.
This is a sort of museum of hives.
At the Oregon State University Honeybee Lab, scientists unravel the mysteries of this amazing insect. They research honeybee health, nutrition, and pollination.
Each bee in the hive has a very important role. They communicate by pheromones, they communicate by dancing. So a bee can find a nectar source, come back to the hive and do a special dance, and the other ones will know exactly where it is.
Because everyone knows what their job is. If she's a pollen forager, for the entire day she's just foraging for pollen and bringing in. If you're a nectar forager, your job is just to bring. There are bees called undertaker bees. Their job is to clean the hive and put the dead bees out of the hive.
3 types of honeybee play essential roles in the complex society of the hive.
The queen is the one that lays all the eggs. It's now known that she isn't the one that makes all the decisions, so she isn't really reigning the hive. The workers are the females and her daughters. Every worker in there is the queen's daughter. So they're all sisters. They clean the hive, they feed the young, they guard the hive.
One worker bee produces only 1/12 of 1 teaspoon of honey in her 6-week life. The male honeybee is a drone.
Their only job is to mate with the queen. They don't do any foraging, they don't clean, they don't help out. It's a girl's world, for sure.
By the time, we get into the summer here, we'll have, 120, 150,000 bees here in my backyard.
Alan Taransky is the president of Glory Bee. He started raising bees as a boy, learning respect for these insects from his father, who co-founded Glory Bee and still keeps bees today.
When you realize how sophisticated a society that they run here in the bee colony, it's pretty amazing.
Honeybee pollination is a crucial element of our economy. It's estimated to be worth $10 to $15 billion a year. And honeybee pollination can boost crop production by up to 20%.
We absolutely need it for our food production, for the environment. It's an important pollinator for our crops. If we didn't have it, we wouldn't have 1/3 of the fruits and vegetables that we eat.
A recent article in the Wall Street Journal says the honeybee is in trouble. From April of 2014 to April of 2015, the United States lost 42% of our honeybee population. The cause is called colony collapse disorder.
And we test for all these pests and pathogens that are very critical.
At the OSU Honeybee Lab, Dr. Ramesh Sagili and his staff are trying to identify problems and looking for ways to protect and preserve the honeybee. Parasites are the major threat to this insect.
So these are varroa mites. It's an ectoparasite that lives on the bee. So it sucks the blood of the bee and transmits 4 or 5 different viruses. And it has been a huge threat to the beekeeping industry for the last 25 years.
But there are other problems: loss of habitat, lack of diverse pollen sources, and the use of pesticides.
And they pollinate multiple crops, vegetables, fruits, nuts that are very critical for our diet. So 1/3 of our diet will be literally taken off if these critical pollinators are not around.
In 2012, Glory Bee created a social program called Save the Bee. The company gives 1% of retail honey and beekeeping sales to Save the Bee.
Runner set.
Glory Bee sponsors special events like the Save the Bee Fun Run to raise money for the cause. In 2015, Glory Bee gave a check for over $44,000 to the OSU Honeybee Lab to help with research.
Glory Bee program is very critical because we are always cash-strapped for funding. In terms of funding, we don't get the funding that we really need to do all that we need to do for a sustainable beekeeping industry here in Oregon or anywhere in the country.
Everybody is affected by the bees. Everybody.
Hannah, come on. My mom just called.
I'm gonna stay with my friends. My mom's picking me up later.
Fine.
Who's that? Nothing.
Is that him?
It's nothing.
You know, it's kind of creepy that he's texting you over and over again. He knows it. He knows you're with us. Hannah, I'm really worried about you. I really think we should tell someone. Is it a phone or a leash? Hannah, I'm really worried about you.
First, we want to take you to Ranchito Grill, our favorite Mexican food restaurant in the area. Abe and his crew know exactly what they're doing, and they'll make you the best food around. Now, every month, Rick Dancer TV and Ranchito Grill give away 2 free dinners. All you got to do is go in and sign up. You'll see the sign, Rick Dancer TV. Just give us your information, and we'll pick a winner. This month, the winner is Richard C. Minor Contractor. We'll be getting a hold of you, but for the rest of you, what are you waiting for? You need to get in there and try that wonderful food. Oh, and tell Abe we sent you. Over 20 years ago, somebody called me, and I don't remember how we heard about it, but a woman's husband had just passed away, and the Brownsville cemetery was a mess. And she and her sister went up there and single-handedly cleaned up that cemetery and made it a place where they were proud to go and where other people were proud to go. We tried to relocate the woman in the story, and it went through the Brownsville Chamber, and we couldn't find them. So maybe she'll see this and give us a call. But anyway, I want you to see what 2 people can do when they put their minds to it.
There is 8 acres up here to mow. So we usually spend a full day every 2 weeks. So we put in about 16 hours up here a month.
Marlene Sloan and her sister Laurel Malash spend many of their weekends raking and mowing Brownsville's Pioneer Cemetery. When they first came up here last spring after Marlene's husband died, the grass grew as high as their shoulders. Back then, most of their time centered around caring for lot number 9, the spot where Laurel and Marlene's father and Marlene's husband are both buried. But the job grew.
I had so many people come to me and say, would you please mow my family's plot? And it got so that I know a lot of the people up here, and I couldn't turn them down. And I felt guilty because I couldn't get to all of them.
So they got the word out, and soon they were organizing others who cared. They even got a fancy name, the Brownsville Pioneer Cemetery Association. Now all the graves are tended. Sloan and Malash grew up in Brownsville.
Mrs. Blaine, she passed away here in, I believe it was April, and she would have been 101 in September. And I knew her as a little girl. I used to trick-or-treat her house. And she was really sweet, and she had snow white hair and bright blue eyes. And she made the best chocolate chip cookies in town. And Milt Elliott and his wife are buried here.
And the list goes on and on. People like Indian Liz, the last of the Calapooya tribe. She was 109. There's Eliza Spalding Warren, the first white child born this side of the Rocky Mountains who lived to reach maturity.
The people up here are people who are part of my past, and presently I do it because it makes me feel good, and just to see somebody else that comes up here to visit a grave, and they don't have to look at a grave that looks like it's totally forgotten. And someday it will be in my future because I plan to be buried here.
She remembers the day she watched an elderly woman crying. When asked what was wrong, the lady said she could not find her sweetie's grave. With Marlene's help, she did.
And she said that in the 30 years she'd come up here, this was the first time it was ever mown. And she said, every Memorial Day I sit for weeks, depressed, knowing that I'm going to go up there and the grave's going to be covered with grass. But she said, I can't stay away. And she turned to me and tried to give me $5 and I wouldn't take it. And she gave me a big hug and she said, thank you. And that was worth it all. Right there was to give someone else a chance to feel a little bit better about having to come up here. There's a lot of history here. There's a lot of happiness. There's a lot of sadness. They lived, they died, they laughed, they cried. They're just like us, but now they're gone. And not forgotten though. It's just knowing that they existed and a reminder that they're with us always. And so this is home and always will be home. So just a little crazy, I guess.
No, Marlene Sloan, that does not sound crazy at all.
But what you guys do here in this building, it's pretty rich.
Oh, it's thrilling, really. I mean, I'm a natural-born reference librarian, so I love to help people find stuff and find stuff for people and connecting people with information that they need or that they're excited about is deeply satisfying to me. And I'm really good at finding stuff and kind of tracking things down as a detective. So working in special collections where we have things that are truly unique. We have the only copy that exists of some of these things. And so it takes it to an even more, a deeper level, a more exciting level, because they have to come, people have to come to our physical space to use the materials. Most of it has not been digitized, so it's not available. They have to come here, they have to handle the physical item, whether it's a tiny little Oregon Trail diary written in pencil by somebody in 1849. We have that. And we had a 7-year-old boy here 2 weeks ago with his mother whose perhaps great-grandfather came across on the Oregon Trail, and he got to look at that diary. And he came with his mom, and then 2 days later, they came back with more family members, and they're all gathered around the table looking at this amazing thing. So it's a time machine for people to be able to look at those things, to handle the things that have been handled by people over the centuries.
Have you guys seen the new magazine out on the streets here in Lane County? I love this. It's Lane Monthly. It's in paper boxes and in just places all over where you find other newspapers. What I love about this is it's about the people and the places, events, and different products around the community that make this region such a great place to live. It's why we're all here. It's a lot like what Rick Dancer's trying to do on the TV show. But I love the feel of this, and you look inside, there's gardening articles, different ways to celebrate Earth Day, and this is the last month issue. Just all kinds of a calendar of events. It is such a fun thing, and I love the way when you pick it up, it feels like kind of in between a magazine and a newspaper. You gotta check it out. It's locally produced, locally published, and everything in here is local. Lane Monthly. You do not want to miss it if you want to know what's going on around town.
The man you're about to meet has touched my life in many ways. Frank Moore is just an amazing guy. There's a new documentary out about him, and we did a story over 20 years ago, and I never forgot it. So recently I just wanted to go back and see him again. So we went back, took our cameras, and put together a story using the old video and the new video, and I just love this. I think you're gonna really like it. Nestled in a canyon where the mighty North Umpqua River flows, there is a pond. Near the pond, a log home. A log home built by Frank and Jeannie Moore.
A friend of mine said, okay, you're retiring, why don't you build a log house? And romantic that I was, I thought, oh, why not?
We met the Moores 23 years ago while working at KEZI-TV. How our paths crossed, I do not remember, but the Moores I will never forget. In those days, we produced a segment about people. Oh, how I love telling their stories.
A quiet man who measures his life in friendships.
And took a chainsaw and ripped every log flat on top.
The log home Frank said he'd never finish, he probably never will. At age 92 and Jeannie close behind at 89, finishing the house is a low priority.
I fell in love with a man when I was first date with him. I was 15 years old, and there's just never ever been another man in my life.
Jeannie still hangs the clothes out to dry on a line inside or outside, depending on the weather. Frank still has a fish pond stocked with trout.
We got everything we need, each other.
The pair married 70 years ago.
I was shy, and he just doesn't live in a shy world. So I learned, I just exposed to a lot of people and learned how to be a little more open. So I'm pretty open now, anyway.
What stress we've had, we were able to ride over the top of it. And well, both of us, not just me, but both of us. And a lot of that was because of what we gave and received from each other.
Frank lost some hair since the first story we did. Mine lost its color. But here we are, two guys reconnecting as if time had no say and memories of a day still hang in the air. Frank still fishes and teaches others the art of casting and renewing old friendships.
Talking about politics, and I knew you did that one time, and I was hoping something would happen. And they're not there for the people. A lot of them start out that way, but they wind up, again, getting into themselves. You know, they become, what's in it for me, instead of what can I do for the people.
Frank worked for governors and new movie stars and writers. And since our story, Frank's story, appears on Oregon Public Broadcasting and even in a new documentary about he and Jeannie's life called Mending the Line.
And all 3,000 people in the auditorium, in the Keller Auditorium in Portland, erupted. 10-minute standing ovation. And there were 8 million, I think 8 million people or something like that watching on what Twitter or something, I don't know. And if there were so many hits, it knocked it off the air. So that was really, really something, I'll tell you.
Spending time with Frank, you may not remember everything he says.
I'm grateful for my life. I'm grateful for what I have received.
Or how he casts a line.
Here, I'll lean down. No, that's right, get up there. Let me do it. You just follow me this time.
But what you do remember is how he makes you feel.
This is just move it.
You want that line to straighten out and back before you come forward. Live for other people as well as yourself.
Frank and Jeannie Moore connect with people.
But things that happen in your life that you think are the end of the world, you just go on. You see what new direction you find in it.
Jeannie gives me so much. She does. She just gives me so much joy, and I don't know. My life is so fulfilled.
Love is more than a word to the Moores. It's an action, and they don't preach it. Instead, they live it.
Yep. And God, life can be good. Life can be good if you let it. So many of us in life seem like we strive too hard, and when we do, sometime we destroy the very thing that we should be receiving in life. And whether it be in marriage or work or anything else, you do the best you can without killing yourself.
I will probably never get to tell another story about Frank and Jeannie Moore, even though Frank says he will live to 110.
What would you want to do tomorrow? And I had used just one word: live.
Frank understands he's not the author of his life, and endings are in the hands of someone mightier than he.
I like a simple life, I'll put it that way. I like a simple life. And out of that simple life, one of the greatest gifts is, as I said earlier, is the gift of friendship.
Frank is the first guy to tell you his life isn't perfect, but he's lived a perfectly amazing life.
I don't know why I've been so blessed, but I really have been, with a wonderful wife and family, and I've received so many honors that I in my judgment, I haven't deserved.
He's lived a full life and done it well. The real gift to his story is to the writer who his story gets to tell. Small town papers are not going anywhere. They're still a vital link to the community, and when you're seeing big papers falling apart and having to downsize, you're seeing small papers thriving because people in the community really need them. They're a vital source of information. I get the Crestwell Chronicle and also the Springfield Times every week delivered in my mail, just so that I can keep in touch and see what people are doing and see what these communities are doing, and I get just real good old-fashioned reporting with a community link, and I really like it. You can order it too and get it, so just take a look at this.
The idea was to take World War II vets, starting with World War II, take the World War II vets back to DC for them to see their memorial. Vets were dying off between 800 and 1,000 vets per day, and it was a rush to get as many vets back to see their memorial before there weren't any left to see. I'm a Eugene police officer. So I feel like it's my duty to, at the very last years of their life, to cheer them on, to let them know that I care about them. I want them to know that their sacrifice wasn't in vain and I haven't forgotten. I see a youthfulness come back into their eyes, and they often, every time that I've taken vets back to DC, I hear multiple times that this is the best weekend of their life. This generation that we're talking about here is the greatest generation, the generation that went and fought war on two fronts and kept the world from imploding, and then coming back and not really getting a welcoming home. The warrior spirit inside of each one of these vets doesn't age. It sharpens my focus. It brings about a certain amount of patience for people. It also helps me put in perspective current day vets. Some of the stories that the veterans tell me of things that they experienced back in World War II in Korea, some of the things that they haven't even spoken of in the last 70 years. All of the fundraising that we do, all of the money that we raise, every dollar goes to sending the vets themselves to DC, because it doesn't cost them any money. The organization says, hey, veterans, you've already paid enough. But all of the volunteers that go, whether you're a guardian that goes with the vets themselves, or a volunteer, medical staff, whoever, they pay their own way to go back. I remember one vet, he just had tears, you know, and I think it was just tears of pride. Those are things you talk about, you know, you just kind of let them, you put your arm around them and let them have their moment. Let them talk about whatever it is they want to talk about. And sometimes just those moments in silence are exactly what they want to share with you. I don't know if it makes me better, but it definitely makes me want to be more understanding and more patient. And I think that in and of itself makes me a little bit better.
A young man who went to 4-H with my kids recently emailed me, and he's dabbling in video, but the guy does a great job. And he took this video, said, Rick, would you want to see it? I saw it, said, hey, can I air it? And it's absolutely beautiful. And I think you'll just take a nice little trip through Mount Hood. There's no words, it's just music and pictures to kind of leave you on the end of this show. So that's it for this edition of Rick to Answer TV. We're online all the time, or Sundays 4:30 on KEVU. We'll see you next time.
Kathy and me. We're in Jacksonville. And we're trying out the new camera. Had a couple little issues, but we are really hot because it's like close to 100 degrees today, and we do have a pool back at the place, which we'll show you in a little bit. So we'll show you a little more, some cars downtown, all that coming up on Taste of Jacksonville.
No, it's actually Taste of, you have to edit this, sorry. Taste of Summer is what it's called.
Oh, Taste of Summer.